Hello, welcome back to England 360 and welcome back to the end of one of our sessions. We've literally just finished fishing. We've been fishing since first thing this morning and probably had one of the best tench sessions we've had in years. It's been absolutely fantastic.
For some.
For some. For some. But we still get most of the afternoon, most of the evening left. Tench fishing's a morning thing, so it kind of dies off round about now. But what we did notice when we were fishing through the morning is the amount of silverfish in here, and we've been harassed by them constantly. The alarms have been bouncing all over the place. Now we've been catching rudd, roach, hybrids, and some really nice fish as well. They're a bit of a nuisance, but we did say earlier on that if we were specifically targeting these fish, we'd be over the moon because they're stunning, stunning, stunning fish. So, guess what we're doing this afternoon? We're going to target the silvers in this little pond. The majority of them are hybrids. They're not huge. They're around about the sort of 10-ounce mark, which is a lovely fish. We didn't really come prepared for this style of fishing, but I'm a big believer in keeping things really simple. You don't need all the fancy gear. All right, so I've kind of brought together everything that I've kind of got with me. Maggots. Still got plenty of maggots left. We've run out of everything else. We've run out of worms, we've run out of ground bait, but we've still got plenty of maggots left. They're looking quite healthy.
That the ones you thought were dead earlier?
Aye, they've kind of warmed up a wee bit. They look all right. And then I've a selection of wagglers, so I'm going to fish a waggler. I'm going to fish the waggler two methods, two kind of different ways, just for a bit of variety. And then I've got what's left of my split shot, hardly anything. A few hooked in islands, selection of some hooks, some 4-pound fluoro, and a float rod. Now, what we've been fishing with today is feeder style. So we've been fishing fixed spool reels on feeder rods with either helicopter rigs or method feeders, chopped worm, that sort of thing, and it's done really well. It's been great. But the rudd and the hybrids have absolutely loved it. So let's throw together some sort of rig and we'll try fishing for these on the float in two methods. The first method I quite like, and it's quite interesting, is the lift methods, where you fish the float over depth, so it's just sitting underneath the surface. It's almost like a self-plumbing rig. I'll explain it as we go. So when the fish lifts the bait off the bottom, the float shoots up in the air, which is kind of cool, something a wee bit different. And then we'll fish shallow waggler, while spraying maggots as well. We'll see what does the best. Right, let's see what we can do with this. So let's see if we can get some of these silvers, rudd hybrids mainly, by design. So the design is standard 12.5 foot float rod. I'm going to use a centre pin just because I like it. Lift method is quite a kind of traditional style method with a traditional style reel. So what I mean by a lift method is I'm using a waggler, but I'm using a slightly sort of like a bodied waggler. So it's got a kind of chunkier bottom half or bottom section, which is more buoyant, which just helps the float rise in the water as the bait's lifted off the bottom. And then I've plumbed it basically and overshotted it. And that's far too heavy for the float. And that's the idea, because we want the float to sit just under the surface. So that'll sit on the bottom, and the float will sit just under the surface. As soon as the fish lifts that bait off the bottom, I'm maybe going to move the split shot a wee bit closer to the bait. The float shoots up in the water, and hopefully we hook a fish. That's the theory anyway. But yeah, I'll just move that in a little bit closer. Now the reason I've went for this method to start with is because we've been fishing feeder on the bottom with worm, and we've been catching rudd all day. So it makes sense. And I'm just going to fish over the same area that we've been catching tench. So there's also chance of a tench on this. This is a very sort of well-known method for tench fishing. It suits tench fishing perfect, so another tench would be nice. Well, let's give it a whack. So I've pre-plumbed it. It should just, there we go, just sits under the surface. Just keep that in that float. It should shoot up. If there's any fish there, that is. There we go. And you missed it. Perfect example of how that float just lifts in the water. It's a nice way of fishing. Take two. There's still a bit of fizzing out there, so I reckon there's still a couple of tench out there. You see that float getting bounced around under the surface with the line bites, with the fish hitting the line. But it's not until that float lifts, it's actually moving away from us. It's moving away, that might be a fish. Yeah, there's a fish, there's a small fish. So not quite the lift that we're looking for. A little roach to start. You wanted that. Want something a wee bit more substantial. So yeah, the majority of occasions the float will lift in the water, but not in that one. It just kind of sailed away. A big brother. Plenty of small fish on the surface. Changed the bait, I think that one was a wee bit worse for wear. Up it comes, away it goes. Oh, dropped it, still there. Yep. I reckon the fish just picked it up there and then ejected it. There's definitely fish there. There we go. Not quite the standard we've been catching all morning. But, all hybrid. There's bigger ones out there, we'll get some.
Who's that?
Come off. It's only small. The amount of hassle we were getting earlier on the feeders, I was expecting this to be a wee bit more fruitful. It's moving away, it's moving away.
Can't find the damn float.
I didn't lift, that just sailed away there. They're just small fish though. Honestly, we were catching bigger fish earlier.
What do you think the difference is? Why is it?
I think we're getting loads of bites with wee fish like that when we were fishing the feeder. But because we're fishing much bigger baits, like big bunches, big kind of worm kebabs, it was only the bigger fish that were getting them in their mouth, so that was the only ones we kind of caught. But I think we were getting harassed by all sorts.
So could we not replicate that on the float?
Could do.
Before we actually run it a all bait.
Yeah, we could put a bigger worm bait on. There we go. Oh, a perfect lift though.
That's that one I know.
Right. I mean, I'm not fishing light here. I'm fishing a size 10 hook, size 10 wide gape. So it's by no means delicate. It's sailing away, sailing away, sailing away. Slightly better one. Still not what we were getting earlier, but little roach. Pure roach that time, absolutely no rod in that one.
So the point of this video just proves what?
That fishing can be really simple.
Exactly.
You don't need to get carried away with all the fancy gear, all the fancy bait. Just a float rod, a couple of worms, a couple of maggots. The simplest of tackle, and it's good fun. And it produces big fish. I mean, there's every chance of a 5 pound tench, 6 pound tench doing this.
That sun's come out, just made me not be able to see the float.
There we go, lifting the water, dip, pop, bang, fish on. Another roach.
Even I'll see it. Yep, see it.
It'd be, we try a bigger worm bait then.
Yes.
So we're fishing worm kebabs on the hook earlier. Excuse me a second while I tend to my escaping maggots. So not fishing a hair rig with the float, but I've sort of replicated that worm kebab as well as I can. Let's see if it brings a slightly better fish. They're making me look silly here. Up it pops. Nope, thought about it. Wonder if that sun coming out sort of messing with it a little bit. It's been nice and overcast all morning. It's warm now. Still small roach. Not a hybrid to be seen. See, that's quite strange. I was expecting the stamp of fish we were getting earlier. I think what we might do is just to prove a point, I stick a feeder back out. But what it does show, and what it does highlight is throughout the day, no matter what style of fishing you're doing, no matter where you're fishing, the chances are the fish will come and they'll go and they'll change the location, they'll change their feeding habits. And it just highlights how important it is to adapt your approach as well. So this lift method's not quite working as well as I expected it to. There's a few other ways we can go about it. And we'll try those as well. But yeah, it may be interesting. Stick another wee feeder out and see if one of those bigger hybrids fall for it.
So this is the heavier rod I fed out. But it's had the worms, it's had maggots, it's had chopped worms, and I tried Corda's imitation floating sweet corn on the method feeder, and has resulted in absolutely 0 bites. In the method feeder, 45 gram. Excuse me, I have had bream on these before, but no use for the tench, it would appear. Now, as Alex said earlier, the other way that we've been catching these, the bigger rod have came on the feeder, fishing on the bottom. We've mentioned this a few times today, helicopter rig, cage feeder. And as Alex says, no, we're not fishing small hooks, that's a size 10 wide gape hook that we use, believe it or not, for barbel in the chub on the Trent, and these rods are inhaling it. So go over to the bait. Have my worms escaped? I did have another worm, but it's done a runner. If you look at this ground weight, look, that's how literally scraping the bottom of the bucket. There's a bit of mud in there now, a wee pinch of maggots. But it's maybe just that cloud of bait going in. Creating that cloud's maybe just enough to have the fish attack it. So we'll get this in, see if we can pull out a bigger one. I'll just lob this into the exact same spot as what Alex was float fishing. If I'm not mistaken, something is nailing that already. Something was hammering that just as I was setting that bobbin on. In my head, what's going on under the water is when Alex says about competing, that feeder hits the water, the mud and what's left of the ground weight explodes in the water column, and all the fish go, ah, grub, and they all just start attacking it until inevitably one finds the hook bait. But it's just, I said it earlier, they know the camera's on them, don't they? Oh, that sun, like any fish in it, can just kill it. That tip's just bouncing about ever so slightly. Maybe heard the phrase, Alex uses it quite a lot, I've used it the odd time myself, liners. And if I'm not mistaken, that's when the fish are running about and their tails and whatnot are catching your line. That a fair description of liners?
This is not going to plan.
And we were hoping to get all these in one clip so we didn't need to edit it, but I think there's a wee bit of editing involved in this. So Alex literally pressed stop on the camera there to have a wee chat, and there we go. Bit of interest. There we go. Nowhere near as big as the ones we were getting. But again, that to me looks more like a roach. Or is that a hybrid again?
It's a roach.
But anybody that tells me, look at the size of that mouth, look. I've been criticised in the past for using too big a hook. Look at that. That hasn't healed that. That's a size 10 barbel hook. And a roach, the height of nonsense, has absolutely inhaled it. So this is how dire the ground bait situation is. Empty feeder. Double worm. Let's see if we can pull out one of these bigger wood. Same spot. It's been lobbed into it all day. Alex has said 6 tench, well 7 tench, and I've pinched one.
8 in total.
Is it 8 in total? Not one of them came in my rod. So let's see how long this takes this time. This setup that we fish like this, it's same as the carp, a tench, even the barbel and the chub. It's exactly the same. All that bobbing starting to dance. I think Mother Nature's trying to tell us something.
Home time.
Home time. Might even catch a second half of England getting beat tonight. Don't all start attacking your keyboards and all that. We know Scotland get beat 5-1, we know. We did draw 1 each with Switzerland last night.
Well, third time lucky. Well, the first two did work. The lift method produced a few small fish. The feeder's producing small fish. What I think is the fish have just moved off and the sun's come out. So, take 3, back to your sort of standard shallow waggler. And I'm going to fish that under a bulk. So I just want that float to cock, and then these just to sort of fall naturally through that last 16 inches or so. It's really shallow here. Smaller baits, smaller hook, that's a size 16 wide gape, a couple of maggots. And we're just feeding maggots, just feeding loose maggots. And just see if this will produce. Sometimes when the sun comes out a wee bit, the rudd in particular will get quite active higher up in the water. So it's just standard waggler fishing. Bang, straight away, so they're there and they're active. I missed it though.
What are you doing there?
I'm just tightening the shot.
Right.
Slipped. Nothing exciting. So you're having that bait just flutter naturally. There you go, they're on it straight away. Absolutely minuscule though.
They're getting smaller. No, that I will agree is perch bait.
Not today, it's not. I think we'll need to throw up some photos of these fish we caught earlier on just so you believe that they're actually there.
I took some.
Yeah, definitely a little bit higher up in the water. Still a roach though. Oh, come back. Expertly done, you see that? We're just sort of loose feeding over the top every couple of casts.
Is that a cue for me to throw maggots in?
Yeah, we're not very organised here, like always.
And maggots looked good earlier on.
And I'm almost certain that if we were just to keep fishing this way, piling in maggots, getting them competing, we would absolutely bag up on fish. I mean, look at that. Oh, missed it up. Yeah. It should be, once you get them going like this, a fish a cast. And then eventually the bigger fish would turn up.
Anybody that watches these videos, would you not agree that if if you want to get into fishing and you're not too sure,
Start like this.
start like this. It's so much fun catching fish.
Even wee things like that, you know. I love it. I would like them to be a wee bit bigger, but what I would recommend for this style of fishing is, if you are fairly new to fishing, is don't use a centre pin. They're not the easiest to use for this style of fishing. Good old fixed spool would do. But you can see how easy it can be. If you get the method right. That versatility, that being able to switch, it doesn't have to be complicated, but being able to switch does make a difference.
Because at the end of the day, we did primarily come here tench fishing.
We were tench fishing, aye. And we caught tench.
Sorry?
Some of us caught tench.
This is one of these ones you're allowed to go.
No. It's about time. I've had an absolute nightmare for months. And today...
Would you call this a red letter day?
It's going to sound a wee bit gloaty here, but it's a wee bit more than what we're used to. More than what we're used to. Sorry. It's been a long day. I'll say that again. It's a wee bit more like what we're used to. The last 9 months have been terrible. This is how I remember fishing. Edit that bit out. It's just roach and after roach after roach.
Hey, that's because they're higher up on the surface.
Nah, I just think the bigger fish that we were getting earlier, they've just moved off. They'll come back, I'm sure they will, but whether we're here or not. So this little midweek short video didn't quite go to plan, did it? We got the fish, but none of the big hybrids that we were looking for. However, we have been fishing all morning, and your chance to see how slippery little suckers. Your chance to see how this morning actually went comes on Friday. Now, if you're watching this in order, Friday is 2 days after this video goes out. If you're watching it in 6 months' time, check out Tinker Tales Season 2, Episode 2, where we actually did catch some big fish. We'll see you then.